Alright, welcome back to the studio. This next video is going to talk about putting together your idea, getting it onto some sort of a piece of paper. Now, it could be a photo, it could be a sketch, some sort of a resource image, and then attaching it to your plate after you have kind of resolved all those. It could be the size issues, placement, etc. After that, I'll show you how then to fully roll up the plate or within the picture plane that you have taped off, and then the process that I'm going to kind of go over is the direct draw, or some other printmakers like to call also the tracing. So this will be for Monotypes, and we're just going to use black ink on white paper. Alright, so let's get started. So the first thing I wanted to show you is this idea of spending a little time and coming up with an idea. So I'm a big sketchbook sort of encourager. So coming up with an idea, for this particular scenario, we're doing the 7 Deadly Sins as a self-portrait. And so using yourself as part of the idea, and then whatever the sin is. So here, this is envy. It's about lollipop and the portrait. You know, just something I kind of whipped up. I'm not really proud of it, but anyways, it kind of promotes the idea of working out the idea in my head and then putting it down on paper, and then kind of toying with the background, the point of view, and the pose of the figure, etc. So that's the sketchbook. Then working up a larger version, and then using this to actually fit the picture plane. So when I talk about that, or mean about that, so here's my paper. Just to kind of recap, the plate has been rounded off edges, registered with center marks. I have masked off my picture plane, which ideally you can see how the tape comes on the inside of the paper. This will give you a nice white border. The paper has been torn down to size, center marks to register the paper, and just to make registration better, and also so this doesn't move on me, I have attached it at the top here. It also is hinged, so I can hinge it out of the way when I ink it up. My drawing will actually fit inside of the parameter of the picture plane here on the matrix. So that I've gotten this to size, made the drawing. So that has all been prepared and is ready to go. So what I would do here is I would come and bring the camera a little bit closer so you can see this. I'm not really into editing and cutting. This is all one long shot. Okay, so I know that I have a 1-inch border between the edge of my resource. So I just check that measurement and try and get it as straight as I can, but also using the ruler to help aid in getting that spacing. Okay. Once I've done that, I want to adhere the drawing to the back of my print paper, so that when I start to make my marks, it doesn't move on me, which can be frustrating because then you'll kind of get marks that doesn't quite go along with what's going on. So this keeps everything straight, tidy, and it won't move on you. So if I shake it, it won't come off. All right, so that's prepping the design for this particular situation. All right, now I'm ready to ink my plate. So I just fold this out of the way, and you want to make sure that the surface that you're inking on is solid, like it doesn't bow, and that, like glass works well, wood tables, etc. And then when you ink this up, you won't get like voids because it's bowing. It'll make sense when I start inking this. All right, so for the inking process, I have prepared ink. If you go back and watch my ink preparation video, it goes into detail on how to achieve this situation. So the brayer has been rolled up, it's ready to go, and we're just using black ink for this situation. Okay, so I'm going to pick up the brayer and begin to ink. So I come to my plate. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can do this. What I'm trying to achieve is a nice uniform outcome. I usually start in the center, I roll up, then I roll back, and then I just start rolling forward. By rolling forward, in my opinion, I can achieve an overall uniform fill-in. If I start going in different directions, the roller a lot of times will put lap marks, and you'll see those in your print. The other thing that in my ink preparation I talked about, this particular brayer is suitable for this size of picture plane, where for instance this one is way too small to achieve this nice uniform fill-in. Okay, so I've rolled it out a couple of times, and what I want to do is, this is how you would check it. So you bring it up to the light, and you can see the haze of the light coming through, but there are certain areas that are thin or that have fish eyes. Okay? And when you actually do this, you'll be able to see it with more precision. The video isn't really doing it justice, but I think you can see up along this edge. It's pretty thin and there's little fish eyes coming through. So I would want to return to continuing to ink this up. And to do that, because a lot of this ink has now been removed from the roller, I would want to recharge it. So I just come to the ink slab and I roll forward, I don't know, about 8-10 times. I'm not pressing too hard, and I have now recharged my roller. I come back to my plate, and again I just roll forward. Again, attempting to get a really nice uniform opaque black rectangle. When you're rolling this out, try not to press down. It's not necessary. Just let the weight of the brayer do the work for you. Because when you press down, you'll be able to see lap marks or the edge of the roller in your ink. Okay, here's a tip that you can do. If you have a small situation, what you can do is you can take a piece of newsprint or this paper and you can actually tape it right here in front of your folded back print paper. It'll protect it as you're rolling this up. So that's something maybe to consider. Right, I'm going to check it again up against the light in the studio, and it looks pretty good. Okay, so you're getting the sheen that you're seeing is from the light behind us. But it looks good. I don't see, it's completely opaque and I'm not seeing through it, so that's good. Okay. Here's the next step. You get these out of the way. I was going to do this on the table behind us, but it's a little low. All right, tools. We're going to be doing the direct draw or the tracing. You can use a ballpoint pen. You can use the handle. You just want some sort of a tip that gives you the ability to draw. What's going to happen here in this situation is when you start pressing on your resource material, so the print will come down over the inked area, and when I start pressing on this tip, it becomes like the press. All right, so the amount of pressure, the harder you press, the darker the mark will be transferred to the print paper. Okay, so let me just do a mark right here. And then I'll carefully pull it up. And you can see it makes a mark. I press pretty hard, and you can see that it makes that direct drawing mark. Now, depending on the tip, how small it is or how big it is, will also give you, per se, a weighted line. So something really big, thick, or something really light, delicate, thin. So if I use my ballpoint pen, let me do it down here. And this is juxtaposed to that shoulder, and I bring it back up. Now I did press a little bit, but it's a little bit smaller, not much, but just enough to make that difference. I can also do this. I can take my finger and it'll make a mark. So that's how you would do value. Okay? All right, so let me finish this out. I'm basically going to go over my lines in my resource material. I'm pressing with, I don't know, light to medium pressure. And what I like about this is it retains, per se, the look of your drawing. Be careful that you're not rubbing your hand, so you need to have just the point touching or having contact. Otherwise, if you have your hand also, like when you're writing, it will start smearing and that ink will come up and attach. So make a conscious effort not to touch. So what you can do to get away from that is a couple of things. So coming in from behind you again, there's something called a bridge. We'll have these in the classroom. It's basically a piece of wood that has two stilts, per se. This goes right over everything. It's not touching the print, and my hand can hover, especially over in the middle. Okay. Another thing you could do is you could have a book off the side, which gives you some elevation. It's not on the print, and I can also use that my hand would sit on. So I've seen or observed some students have a bit of a shake. Okay, so this will help with that. You could also hold your hand. You can also wrap your wrist with a brace, and that will help with this shake if you have that issue. All right, so let me continue with this. And as I go around, I'm just following my big major lines, per se the outline. And I want kind of a sketchy look. I know these marks will be bigger and sort of more broader in my outcome, but that's okay. Come into the mouth, a little more precision. All right, let me just show you what I got so far. So this process is really great that you can do without a printing press. Let me turn this around so you can see. So this is what has occurred so far. Not bad, okay? And you can see it's right there. It's happening, okay? And because you can peek at it, and because I have the print paper attached to my plate, when I fold it back, it always goes back to the same place. So this is pretty advantageous in the circumstance where you can look to kind of see or gauge how things are going. Am I pressing hard enough? Am I pressing too hard? Etc. I can use my finger. Say I want that his shirt or his article of clothing to have some value. This is kind of weird because you're not making a mark per se with your finger. But this is where, when you can peek, you can see how well this is going. So that's filling in the shirt to give a value, and then his skin tone then per se on the paper pops, and then it looks a lot better. Let me finish off the portrait itself. The rest of the head in. And it's pretty instantaneous. It really goes pretty quick. Okay, so that's the direct draw process technique for monotypes. So that's it. We can kind of recap. Plate prep. Get that all set, have your paper prepped, have that registered. I would highly recommend attaching it to your plate. That makes it easier to, peek. Come up with your resource material, make sure it's to size, to the picture plane. Attach it to the back. So in this situation, it's the back of the print. And then figure out what tools you want to use to create, whether it's line, or perhaps it's even just doing value with your fingers. So the tools are pretty simple when it comes to this situation. And then we have the ink prep, which is that video in itself. Okay. All right, so that's it for this particular demonstration. I hope that makes more sense of this and that you got something from this. I'll see you in the next video.